Converting older projects to the new framework. When the Wonderland editor moved from 0.9.5 to 1.0.0, there was a significant change to the code framework. In this video we'll look at how you can easily migrate an old project to work in the latest editor. With the switch, by default, Wonderland now uses npm, Node.js Package Manager, and ESBuild Bundler. The wl.registerComponent method no longer exists. For each of your custom components you need to do some editing. If you want to code along, then open the Code Along Migrate project. As you can see, Wonderland creates an npm project. After running, you'll find a node_modules folder, two new JSON files, package.json and packagelock.json, and index.js. The node modules folder by default contains the Wonderland Engine, GL Matrix and Howler, and a few other modules. Index.js is auto-generated by the editor, and this file handles registering your components. Looking at the project console window, we can see there are errors when packaging. WL not defined. Notice it refers to the block handler component. Let's fix this file. Where we have WL register component, this becomes an export class. Then the class name, block handler here, and then extends component. If you're familiar with JavaScript classes, then you will instantly say, hang on, where does component come from? If so, go to the top of the class. We need to add an import. It comes from the Wonderland Engine API, from the module we saw in the Node Modules folder. Each component needs a type name. Wonderland uses the type name in the editor, not the class name. Parameters are defined using the static properties object. The Wonderland API has a property class, and we use this to specify property types and default values. If we're using something from the API, we need to import it, so we add property as a second import from Wonderland API. We specify PR camera as a property object. This means the editor will include a scene objects dropdown for this component property. Speed is a property float. For floats we can pass a default value to the constructor. Now we're dealing with classes, we need to remove :function, and we remove all the commas linking the functions in what was previously an object. This component uses the GL Matrix library, and now we're using the new framework, we need to add each class we use from the library as an import. For this component we need vec3 and quat. They come from GL Matrix, which you can also find in the Node Modules folder. The easiest way to remove GL Matrix dot is to use find and replace. This component also uses Howler audio source. When using this we need to add it as an import. This is a Wonderland component, but it's not directly attached to a scene object. We need to make sure the component is registered. Any dynamically created component needs to do this. We add a static onRegister method, and this method will receive the engine, which was previously the WL global, as a parameter. We use the register component method of the engine and pass the class name. Without this, linking would fail and you would get an error in the browser. We add the Howler audio source in the start method. What was previously a string now takes the class name. At this point the project should package correctly, but you'll then notice that Wonderland has added several useful warnings about legacy methods. You'll see several methods have a line through them, and if you hover over them a panel will appear explaining what method you should switch to. Position, for example, no longer uses translation. Now it's position instead. Instead of translate, you choose between translate local or translate world. And get forward is now get forward world. Some other changes you'll come across. WL.onXRSessionStart is now an instance of the emitter class. We replaced WL with this.engine. Engine is always available to a class that extends component. And replace push with add. And finally, getters and setters have been replaced. Translation local, use get position local. Translation world, use get position world. Rotation local, use get rotation local. Rotation world, use get rotation world. Scaling local, you guessed it, get scaling local. Scaling world, get scaling world. Transform local, get transform local. And finally, transform world, use get transform world. Follow the steps in this video and you'll soon have your projects running smoothly using the latest Wonderland editor. You'll find more information in the Migrate Your JavaScript to 1.0.0 link in the resources drop down for this video. Get the complete course at a discount at nicklever.com/courses.